No. So Wildstein was the guy who gave the order and knew why he was giving the order. Political appointee.
Because Christie ordered him to do so.
Well, as far as we know now, Christie's aides, very close aides, did it.
Yeah.
Now, did Christie tell the aides to tell Wildstein to do it? That's
where we're looking for the.
That's where we're going to look.
Gun.
Now, Christie claimed that, well, Wildstein's just an employee. I don't even know him that well. People are saying I'm good friends with him, that he's my childhood friend. You'll hear the clip we're going to play. And he says, that wasn't true. He's just a guy who works there, and I hardly ever talk to him. I don't really know him that well. I didn't talk to him. I didn't talk to him before the election much. It was a long time since I talked to Wildstein. Listen to Christie himself.
Well, let me just clear something up, okay? About my childhood friend, David Wildstein.
Okay.
David and I were not friends in high school.
No?
We were not even acquaintances in high school.
Oh,
I have had no contact with David Wildstein in a long time. I did not interact with David.
Really? I did not interact with David. During the traffic jam, there's the governor interacting with David.
The Wall Street Journal now has a photo of Christie appearing to interact with Wildstein on September 11th, 2013. That's the third day of the lane closures themselves.
CNN has just learned more about the connection between the governor and one of the men at the center of that scandal, David Wildstein.
While Governor Christie has distanced himself from David Wildstein, we're learning some pretty interesting new details from sources inside the Port Authority.
Agency officials were told in 2010 to find a place for Wildstein because, quote, he was a good friend of the governor.
And that there was actually a position created for Wildstein at the Port Authority.
What we're hearing from sources inside Port Authority is that he was seen as a guy who was Governor Christie's eyes and ears.
I did not interact with David.
Really?
Gotcha! That's a gotcha moment, isn't it? Sorry, folks, got to gloat a little bit because it's nice to see when these haughty, self-important jerks go down. And there you go. There is now a photo of him and Wildstein and a bunch of other Christie flunkies around them, but there's a photo of them together talking, yucking it up there in New York on September 11th, the third day of the backup at the George Washington Bridge, talking with Wildstein.
How many ways can you smell smoking gun?
Yes. Now, let's look into David Wildstein, shall we? Who is this guy? And who is this guy he says he doesn't really know? Wildstein grew up in Livingston, New Jersey. He attended Livingston High School in the late 1970s, where he was the classmate 1 year ahead of future Governor Chris Christie. Christie said that although he knew who Wildstein was, that both of them had worked on Thomas Kaine's campaign for governor in 1977. Christie and Wildstein were not close acquaintances in high school. And this is the quote from Christie. "We didn't travel in the same circles there in high school. You know, I was class president, an athlete. I don't know what David was doing during that same period of time." That's the quote. Christie and Wildstein were both members of the school's baseball team. In the interview published in 2014, the team's coach recalled that who had been the team's statistician was a very quiet, unassuming, brilliant kid with the brilliant mind for numbers and figures, although he was not a skilled player. But here, they were on the same team. Well, I don't know what he was doing. I was class president. I was an athlete. I was on the baseball team. I don't know what he was doing. He was sitting next to you on the bench. The coach said so. You're both on the team at the same time. Well, I didn't really know him. He was just a kid there at school. I didn't know him.
Oh, no, he was just there. He was just there. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Sure.
They were.
He was the invisible kid that was your teammate on the team. I didn't know what his name was. I just took his lunch money.
Yeah, it's milk funny. So there you go. And then, you know,
He is so busted right now.
they worked together on Governor Kane's campaign back in 1977. Kane was a Republican. They worked together because they're both, you know, young Republicans. He knew this guy his whole life, practically. And that's why he had them create an appointment for him to work. And he was very beholden for Christie for doing that. Of course, he carried out Christie's order to shut down those lanes in Fort Lee as payback. And soon as this happened, what did Weinstein do? He jumped ship. And he quit. Now, subpoenas have been issued for this to Chris Christie's aides. And they're all going to have to testify. Weinstein's already been under the gun. Listen to how the truthful, brilliant kid, even though he was a bad baseball player, David Weinstein, answers the questions.
Recently, where were you employed?
On the advice of my counsel, I respectfully assert my right to remain silent under the United States and New Jersey constitutions.
I want to be very specific about this. Mr. Wildstein, you've been asked a question about where you formerly worked. Are you refusing to answer that question?
He has asserted his rights under the New Jersey and federal constitutions.
That's his lawyer.
The right to refuse to answer questions to this committee is not permitted under those rules.
I understand this committee's view of the rules and what the rules might say, but in my legal opinion, the federal and state constitutions trump the rules that the chair is making reference to.
My question is, does page 751 contain communications dated August 5th, 2013?
What's your answer?
On the advice of counsel, I can assert my right to remain silent.
Play it again, Sham.
And that document refers to a meeting with Port Authority Chairman David Sampson, does it not?
On the advice of counsel, I assert my right to remain silent.
And that also refers to a meeting with the governor of the same date.
Ooh. Mr. Chairman, on the advice of counsel, I assert my right to remain silent.
I certainly want to ask counsel
yes, sir.
If it is your client's intention to assert that right on every single question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This email communication, is it not?
On the advice of counsel.
You won't even acknowledge if it's an email or not.
Okay. You can't tell me whether it's an email or a text message?
That's what I just said.
The same answer.
Okay.
The lawyer's whispering.
That's a email between Bridget Kelly, the governor's deputy chief of staff, and yourself?
Same answer.
And that email for traffic problems in Fort Lee?
Same answer, sir.
And you responded to that email?
Same answer, sir.
Okay. Page 757 is a communicate. There are a lot of redactions on that page, is there not?
It's the same answer, sir.
The answer being that you refuse to answer under the Fifth Amendment?
That's correct.
Okay. So you won't even tell me if there's redactions on that page?
Same answer.
Okay. The document that I'm looking at on page 757 has a date of September 9, 2013. Can we agree on that?
Same answer.
Won't even
this
admit.
Communication of 9/9/13, where you text someone, I have idea to make this better. Can you tell me who you were communicating to?
Same answer, Mr. Chairman.
Can you tell the committee what you meant by making something better?
It's the same answer, Mr. Chairman.
And what is the this in the make this better?
Same answer, sir.
I have to play the whole thing because it's absolute. Okay, what do you think listening to a guy who can't even admit if that's an email or a text message or if it's redacted? And,
Oh, he's guilty as sin.
yeah, there you go. There you
He's
go.
guilty as sin.
And he knows if he answers
He knows
any
he's
question.
dead to right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Answer
Eventually, it's going
any
to get
question.
back to the governor.
Now, the big question is here. The smoking gun, okay, the photo, and his own words saying, I don't know the guy, hardly know the guy, hardly ever talked to him. And then we got the photo, him, while the closure of the lanes are happening and they're both yucking it up together. He's going to have to answer to that eventually, and other questions. Similar questions to the Weinstein, refused to answer here. Will the governor do what Weinstein did? Plead the fifth on everything. Because once you start answering, then you might start to contradict yourself, and they got you, right?